Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So today I want to touch on a topic that I've been wanting to cover for a long time. I've talked about this, a few times on the blog, the blackbraziltoday.com blog. Again, over 3,700 articles over there. But this is the first time I'm going to talk about it specifically about the subject who I'm talking about. Anybody who has studied, things about Brazil, whether it's Brazilian history or Black Brazilians in history, or just how Brazil deals with race issues on, racial classification, identity, and these types of things, you will have come across the name Machado de Assis. He was Brazil's greatest writer, but there's always been a controversy over how his image appears in the imagination of the Brazilian population. Some years ago, I had did a story where, in November, that's Brazil's Black Consciousness Month. They have November 20th as the Day of Black Consciousness. And one particular year, uh, in Sao Paulo, they had printed up these huge banners that they were, posting on different buildings throughout the city. It was like 20 historically Black figures who maybe people didn't know were actually Black, either because they had never seen pictures of the people or because the pictures they had seen presented these people as being white. So with the rise of Black identity politics, the Movimento Negro organized this campaign to recognize some of these great figures who are memorable to the Brazilian public and present them like these are Black people. In some cases, these people, their names might be the name of a street or an avenue, might be the name of a building, and there's plenty of buildings that I know and streets that I know, and I don't actually know who this street is actually named after. I just know the name. So they did that campaign to like rescue the image of these important people, to say these people were of African ancestry. So one of the greatest figures that they often discuss when this question of important Black Brazilians come up, or those who have been presented as white, Machado de Assis. He has to be discussed. One of the most important literary figures in Brazilian history. He's often considered Brazil's greatest writer. He died in 1908, but it's always been an image for a lot of people. People just assumed he was white, or because of the way the pictures were presented, they assumed he was white. But he was, in fact, people would say he's a mulatto. Some people are saying we just call him Black. But due to Brazil's theory of whitening, their politics of the time says we need to whiten everything. I've talked about this in numerous videos, whether whitening through miscegenation, through the mixing of the population, or just presenting people as white, in the media, whatever it might be. So Machado de Assis, you could say, suffered you could say a campaign of whitening his image. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. So before I get into it, definitely consider subscribing to this channel, like this video, share this video. Um, Consider subscribing to the channel, click on the notification bell so you'll be, advised when I put up new videos. So let's get directly into this today because it's an intriguing topic. So this is the writer, Machado de Assis, okay? Now, there's no doubt about it. This man is, whatever mixed degree that he might be, but you can clearly see, I don't think there's anybody who wouldn't be able to see that this man is of African ancestry. You know, when I first started studying Brazil, there were only a few pictures that I would see of Machado de Assis, but there's been a number of pictures released of him over the years. I saw a picture a couple months back when I actually started putting this article together, and through the magic of AI, they actually came up with a picture that showed Machado de Assis smiling. They took the same picture. I'm like, that's incredible. I didn't know it was AI at the time because I was familiar with this picture, but through AI, they gave him a smile. It was intriguing to see that picture. So there's a lot of, whenever I see pictures from the past, it just kind of takes me back. I look at these pictures and I wonder, what is this guy thinking when this picture was taken? Um, Even today, when I go over to people's houses, they might be older people and they'll have, photographs of their family throughout the house or on the mantle or whatever, because nowadays everybody keeps, pictures on their cell phones. And I really do appreciate when people have, color or even black and white photos, because it just puts me in a frame of mind of like, this is our history. So let's move on. Let's talk about Machado de Assis and this controversy about what this man really looked like. So as I said, this has to do with the theory of embranquecimento in Brazil, what's called whitening, whitening the population, making everything appear white, presenting Brazil, at least for its own citizens, as a white population, or in the progress of whitening, the instilling in the minds of Black and brown Brazilians that you should mix with whiter people so that you can produce whiter children. I've talked about that in numerous videos. This is something serious. When you go back to, this is an article from Brazil's top newspaper, the Folha de Sao Paulo. And this is from October of 2011. And I remember when this happened, the controversy that surrounding this television commercial. The federal governments, they have a bank that's called Caixa Eletrônico Federal. You know, it's a national bank. You know, I think it falls under the wing of the federal government. And in recognition of Machado de Assis, they hired an actor to portray him in a television commercial. The controversy started when they hired a white actor. So here's the guy that they used in the first commercial. You know, it's a commercial, of a Caixa commercial with a white actor, and now with a black actor. So what happened was that after people saw this commercial, activists in the Movimento Negro rejected it. They protested, says, no, you cannot present Machado de Assis, the country's greatest writer, as a white man. You have to redo this commercial. This was one of the first, I'm not saying the first, but it just struck me that racial politics were starting to really expand in Brazil when they made noise about this television commercial. The producers of the commercial had to go back. They had to hire a black actor to portray Machado de Assis. The original commercial had a white actress who was telling the story. She was presenting the commercial. Then they presented the scene back in either the late 1800s or the early 1900s, and they showed Machado de Assis walking down the street. So a white actress introduced the commercial. A white actor portrayed Machado de Assis. After the complaints from the Movimento Negro and activists, they had to recut it. They used actor Ailton Graça to present the commercial, and then they used a black man to present to, you know, play the role of Machado de Assis. This was a big thing back in 2011. You can still pull this up. You know, I saved both videos just to have it, you know, so I could talk about this in a future date. So today I'm talking about this. So this was actually a pretty big deal. Another thing that I noticed is that, and I'm going to talk about this in another video, every year in Sao Paulo, they have an event called Feira Preta. It's kind of like a Black Expo event where Black vendors, Black entrepreneurs, they all get together and sell their products. You know, if you've been to any Black Expo events, then you've seen something like this. But this is the one in Sao Paulo kind of gave a kickstart to Black entrepreneurs throughout the country. And then these types of fairs or expos started popping up all over the country. But the first and the most famous is Feira Preta. And I've been to it numerous times. As you know, I lived in Brazil for 9 years. Even before I started living there, I was going in November because I always wanted to participate in Feira Preta. I mean, it was just music, it was food, it was, you know, T-shirts, books, everything that had something to do with Black culture. It was I think it's in its 23rd or 24th year. But I remember one year I started seeing entrepreneurs selling T-shirts presenting Machado de Assis with a big afro. Like, they were doing everything they could. They were claiming Machado de Assis. Like, no, Machado de Assis was a black man. Here's another T-shirt. This is the one that I most remember. So we know that this is not what his hair really looked like, but they're giving him an afro to say, no, he's one of us. He's a man of African ancestry. And as I said, there are some really intriguing photos of Machado de Assis. But when you look at his face, it's just, how can anybody believe that this guy could have been white? Well, it's because they retouched the photo. So let's get into the story. Machado de Assis is Brazil's greatest writer, but his image was whitewashed. Joaquim Maria Machado de Assis, it actually should be 1839 to 1908. Often known as just Machado de Assis or Bruxo do Cosme Velho, was born in Morro do Livramento in Rio de Janeiro, the son of a descendant of freed Blacks and a Portuguese woman. Like most, he came from a poor family and barely studied in public schools, and he never went to college. That's even more incredible. Brazil's greatest writer never went to college. Machado was considered by the American literary critic Harold Bloom to be the greatest Black writer of all time and the greatest name in Brazilian literature. His work was of fundamental importance to the Brazilian literary schools of the 19th and 20th century and is now of great academic and public interest in understanding Brazil and the world. Okay, another photo of Machado de Assis. The whitewashing of Machado de Assis was a way of ignoring the role of Afro-Brazilians in the construction of national literature, and Machado is considered the greatest writer in Brazilian history. For years, the issue was treated with contempt until in 1957, the writer Rubens Magalhães published a controversial photograph that was taken at the end of Machado's life and described as without retouching. So he found the picture that was written on the photo. It says this picture has been untouched. It hasn't been retouched. So it's to say not only that that picture was untouched, but previous images of Machado de Assis have been retouched to make him appear whiter. So this is the article that I actually used today, the serious error with the image of the greatest writer in the history of Brazil. So this is a picture of Machado de Assis, right? There was a campaign that happened, another campaign that happened in 2019. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Let me go on with the story. It shows the author, the photo that was found, it shows the author Machado de Assis with dark skin and African features, which shocked many people because it was precisely that image that had often been used with color editing to show him as a white man. Portraying the most important Brazilian writer as a Black man is a historical correction that guarantees that new generations will get to know the real Machado de Assis. Here's some more photos of Machado de Assis. I mean, how can anybody mistake this guy for a white guy? All right. This picture looks like it was colorized. Very intriguing photos of this writer. Misrepresented for centuries, the author is the grandson of freed Africans, and he was once seen as white. So today's story is courtesy of André Nogueira. Okay. Last year, Faro Editorial surprised Brazilians with the publication of the work O Homem que Odiava Machado de Assis, The Man That Hated Machado de Assis, by José Almeida Jr., which has already won the Sesc Literary or Literature Award. The book stood out among the other works already released about the Brazilian genius. In addition to mixing history and fiction around one of the greatest names in literature, the copy presented the diverse image of Black Machado de Assis on its cover. When I became aware of the real Machado de Assis campaign promoted by the Zumbi dos Palmares College, the cover of my book was already in the print shop. Machado de Assis was a mestizo, meaning mixed race, the great-grandson of slaves, but he suffered a whitening process over time. So this is the cover of the book. As it says, it won this literary award for the work. Now, it's talking about, it mentioned here, the campaign at the Zumbi dos Palmares College. It is recognized as really the only Black college in Brazil. It's located in Sao Paulo. It had moved locations several times over the years, but they created a campaign for people to understand that Machado de Assis was not white. So this campaign creates photo of Machado de Assis to portray him as Black. So this is the image we usually see. They either they darkened his skin or they altered it in some kind of way to present him as a Black man. Now, this is a picture that I took myself. I used to work on Avenida Paulista, and I remember seeing this campaign. So I took a picture. This was, the digital clock and the weather meter outside in Sao Paulo. And it says Machado de Assis was portrayed as white, but he was Black. So 2019, they developed a whole website. Again, they wanted to capture and redeem Machado de Assis' image as a person. If you don't want to call him Black, we'll say he's a person of African ancestry. Okay. Let me see. These are the creators of the independent publisher, the group that was behind, putting out this information about Machado de Assis. Like I said, some very intriguing photos you have here. Okay. Let's get back to this story.